Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. You know, building on the point that I've been making throughout my videos recently, I've never seen a group of people with such an incredible level of, let's call it self-righteous indignation. I've never seen a group of people with such a high level of moral superiority end up being so wrong every single time, all the time. You know, Democrat politicians are always talking about the facts, misinformation, the facts, the science. They're always presenting things in the current as if they're doing the right thing. They're following the data. They're following the facts. You know, essentially, they're right about everything. They know everything. And then fast forward just a little while later, they're sitting here apologizing about how they did everything wrong and changing their tone entirely once they, I guess, realize the mess that they created. Like I always say in these videos, there's a million of these examples and topics. The border's one of them. No longer can Democrats defend their border policies. They can't ignore the border crisis anymore because, well, it's happening in their backyard now, whether they like it or not. When it comes to defunding the police, when it comes to all their rhetoric, you know, their modern legacy on the topic, they're all backtracking. At the time, of course, it was common sense policy. This is how we're going to change the world. Now it's, oh, we messed up. Let's change the narrative before we get stomped in the next election. And now, of course, on the issue of the 2020 pandemic, all of a sudden, with talks of us, let's say, reviving some of the old policies and authoritarian measures, let's call them, well, all of a sudden, Democrats seem to be having a little bit of an epiphany moment. The always right, always righteous Democrats are apparently finally admitting their faults. Well, kind of. Not really, but kind of. The closest you're gonna get from dishonest scoundrels like this. We're talking about Gavin Newsom on this one. He did an interview and I just found the whole thing, let's say, frustrating. You know, stupid. Let's take a look at what he had to say, and then let's talk about the facts. We got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. Alright folks, this Gavin Newsom interview. I have never seen an individual with such a low level of self-awareness, it's unbelievable. And that idea is gonna pop up a couple times here. Let's first start off with this. Quote, "We would have done everything differently. Gavin Newsom takes mulligan on botched pandemic response."
During COVID, you were pretty strict with the lockdowns here. And there was an interesting piece in Harper's that sort of was critical of your decisions from this perspective. Here you prioritize this industry, but you were tougher on those that just wanted to go worship. What do you say to that criticism?
I think there's a lot of humility, and we didn't know what we didn't know, and it was hardly I, it was we, collectively.
I understand
and
that.
I think all of us, in terms of our collective wisdom, we've evolved. We didn't know what we didn't know. We're experts in hindsight. We're all geniuses.
But think
now
about what you ended up collectively prioritizing. You're prioritizing an industry, in one specific one, but then didn't prioritize maybe ones that whose maybe values you didn't connect with.
I don't think it's a binary. There was iterations within that theme.
Firstly, Gavin Newsom responds by, "It was not I, it was we." Yeah, listen, doofus. You're the executive of the state. You're the guy. I don't know if it was I, it was we. Doesn't take responsibility from his own policy decisions that he enacted on a state executive level, but then also claims that we would do literally everything different now. That's kind of funny because I seem to remember Gavin Newsom and his entourage calling us extreme conspiracy theorists, promoting dangerous misinformation throughout the entire process. Oh, let me guess, Mr. Gavin. That wasn't I, that was we. Yeah, nothing is their fault, right? He admits that they got pretty much everything wrong, but then shifts the blame to a more collective we than I. I mean, what a guy. And you know, it's funny, his entire defense falls apart when you just think about his counterpart. Gavin Newsom's Republican counterpart is Ron DeSantis. You got two coastal states, one on the East Coast, one on the West Coast. Dramatically different areas, dramatically different states. You had one governor who went full tyrant, and you had another who used his position as the state's executive to challenge narratives, to challenge policy, to veto policy. You know, he actually used his position to do the right thing and look out for the little guy. You know, in Ron DeSantis' situation, it certainly was I and not as much we, but Gavin Newsom claims that no, that's not how it works. No, that's exactly how it works. If Gavin Newsom wanted to enact enact a policy shift in California, he could have 100% done it. But he didn't do it because he was playing politics, and apparently politics is more important than common sense policy. If Ron DeSantis and Republicans on the other side of the coast are doing something else and doing something different, well then Gavin Newsom can't possibly follow that policy, because then that proves that Ron DeSantis was right. And so he had to do the opposite. He had to dig his heels in and be the authoritarian that he dreams of being, that he fantasizes about. Lo and behold, a year and a half later, this clown goes on Chuck Todd's MSNBC show and basically admits that, yeah, the entire time I was wrong, and if I was to go back, I would pretty much do everything differently. In other words, he's admitting that he was wrong, that he acted as a tyrant, and Ron DeSantis was right. But of course, he'll never admit that, no. Instead, what he'll say is this.
I worry about democracy. I worry about the fetishness for autocracy that we're seeing, not just from Trump, but around the world, and notably across this country. I've made the point about DeSantis that I think he's functionally authoritarian.
This guy literally just went on NBC News after admitting that he did everything wrong and said Ron DeSantis is a tyrant, an authoritarian. Let me get this straight. The guy who enacted policy that forced procedures on people is apparently the freedom guy, the guy who shut people's businesses down, the guy who shut people inside their own homes, the guy who stopped kids from going to school, the guy who stopped extracurricular activities and sporting activities, shut pretty much all regular folk down, meanwhile allowing lobbyist groups, powerful unions, and major corporations to continue business as usual. Apparently, that guy is the freedom guy, and the guy who didn't exert state government power, the guy who allowed people to make decisions for themselves, the guy who allowed people to continue to earn a living and feed their families, that guy is the authoritarian. Gavin Newsom is the biggest clown on planet Earth. Obviously this guy's trying to rewrite history. He doesn't want you to remember this photo right here. You see this photo of Gavin Newsom? Yeah, that's a photo that first of all will live in infamy. And most importantly, that's a photo that nobody should ever forget, because when Gavin Newsom's saying what he's saying, this photo is all you need as a rebuttal to any argument that he makes on that topic. When Gavin Newsom, and it's not just the photo, I mean headlines like this, this beautiful headline pretty much debunks any Gavin Newsom rewriting of history on the topic that he could possibly come up with. And boy, oh boy, is Gavin Newsom trying to rewrite history. Let me show you what I mean by that.
I think these culture wars have gone too far. At the same time, I don't criticize those poor parents out there that have been ginned up. There's a lot of misunderstanding, misrepresentation out there, because people are weaponizing these grievances against vulnerable communities led by DeSantis. But this is why California is so essential. This is why we matter.
He wants to market California as the freedom state. Yeah, right. He is the slimiest political snake in the entire bucket of snakes. He's the slimy one who can slither on through and make it right to the top. The things that this guy says, without realizing the irony, without realizing the hypocrisy, it's simply unbelievable. He said this during the interview as well.
You think another 4 years of Donald Trump will break us?
I hope we don't have to experience that. But I worry about democracy. I worry about the fetishness for autocracy that we're seeing, not just from Trump, but around the world, and notably across this country. I've made the point about DeSantis that I think he's functionally authoritarian. I'm worried more in many respects about Trumpism, what transcends well beyond his term and time and tenure.
You think Trump or DeSantis would be a greater threat to democracy?
I leave that to more objective minds. I'm concerned about democracy fundamentally in this country.
I understand you say for more objective minds. What's in your mind?
Tell
me what's in your mind.
I think the vengeance in Donald Trump's heart right now is more of a threat.
So another 4 years of that could...
Yeah,
it's not something...
I'm not going to wallow in it. I'm going to work hard to get President Biden reelected and work hard to make the case for what he's done for this country.
Gavin Newsom claims that another 4 years of Donald Trump would, quote, break us. That democracy would cease to exist as we know it if Trump was to win again. Oh, definitely Donald Trump's the problem. Yeah, here's my issue with that. This is California. The guy who has led California to the highest level of poverty, the guy who is currently leading the richest state in the union, but has one of the lowest academic outcomes in terms of the public schooling system, the guy overseeing one of the biggest housing crises, homelessness crisis, crime crisis, I mean, the list goes on and on and on. That guy is telling you that Donald Trump will, quote, break us. No, Gavin. The only one who's broken anything is you. You and your Democrat cronies have broken California, and you have absolutely no authority to speak on any of these topics. Absolutely unbelievable. Anyways, that's pretty much it. Just a quick little Gavin Newsom video. I mean, chances are this guy's gonna run for president one day. So I guess we're just trying to get ahead of that a little bit. Gavin Newsom, one of the slimiest, slithery snakes in the snake pit. That's pretty much what I got for you. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like and possibly subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.